A large-scale protest erupted in Hainan Province after a state-owned enterprise illegally cut down villagers' areca, betel nut trees, sparking chaos and outrage across Cheongjiang County. Furious residents surrounded the office building of the Hainan Natural Rubber Industry Group's Jiachai branch, overturned vehicles, and tore down its signboard. Observers and commentators noted that the incident reflects the deepening economic crisis in China and the increasing insolvency of local governments, which have driven the regime into a vicious cycle of exploiting the public and triggering grassroots revolts. On October 31st, in Yuantai Fan Village, Cheongjiang County, tensions boiled over when the Jiachai branch clashed with local farmers over land rights. Negotiations had failed in the days prior, and in a sudden early morning move, the company sent workers to clear villagers' areca plantations. Villagers reported that their mature plantations, some more than a decade old, were cut down overnight, destroying years of labor and livelihood. Since areca palms take at least 7 years to bear fruit, the act was perceived as not just illegal, but profoundly destructive. By afternoon, residents had gathered and piled the chopped trees in front of the company's office to protest, chanting slogans demanding justice. People from nearby villages quickly joined the growing crowd. Videos circulating on social media showed protesters blocking entrances, hurling rocks, chairs, and other debris, while shouting denunciations at the company as a bandit's den. Witnesses described villagers climbing onto the building itself, dismantling signage in symbolic acts of resistance. Chinese-Canadian writer Sheng Shui commented, "People are no longer merely petitioning or protesting peacefully. They are taking direct and even violent action. This shows a strong and growing will among ordinary citizens to defend their own rights." Sheng Shui emphasized that China's prolonged economic downturn, coupled with worsening fiscal deficits at all levels of government, has forced the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, to intensify its exploitation of citizens. She warned, "We'll see more cases of illegal land seizures and violations of farmers' rights. Only when people resist strongly enough will the CCP make temporary concessions to calm public anger." Authorities responded swiftly, deploying large numbers of police to suppress the protesters and block all roads leading into the village. Footage shows several employees of the Hainan Rubber Company being escorted away amid chaos. Locals reported hearing gunshots during the night, with police allegedly firing warning shots to disperse the crowd. A local villager told the Epoch Times that hundreds of residents were directly involved in the confrontation, while thousands more gathered to observe. About 100 police officers were present, but the villagers were not afraid of them, he said. The fearlessness of the villagers was echoed in the slogans they shouted, including "Down with the bandits" and "Communist Party, step down," openly anti-CCP messages rarely seen in public demonstrations in recent years. Current affairs commentator Jing Haochang noted, "In the past, people feared it when officials opened fire, but not anymore. Now they're even daring to shout slogans like 'Down with the bandits' and 'Communist Party, step down,' openly anti-CCP slogans." Sheng Shui added, "More and more people are realizing that this is not about individual officials. It's the systemic nature of the CCP itself. The regime never intended to give real rights to the people, so the public must rely on protest to protect themselves. If this awareness spreads, it could become a unifying social consensus and a grassroots force against the CCP's violent authoritarian rule." Founded in 2005, Hainan Rubber is a major state-owned enterprise and China's largest natural rubber processor. The company claimed on its Douyin, TikTok China, account that its Jiachai branch legally owned the disputed plot, which villagers had been occupying. Villagers, however, countered that while the land nominally belongs to the company, they hold valid land contract certificates and have been cultivating areca trees there for over a decade. The sudden move to reclaim the land without finalizing compensation inflamed the situation. This incident in Hainan is part of a growing pattern of social unrest in China. October 12th, hundreds of homeowners from the Jinyue Huafu complex in Leizhou City, Guangdong, surrounded the local police station to protest the arrest of property rights activists. October 25th, in Tangxia Town, Dongguan, residents of the Dantixuan residential complex were violently dispersed by police while protesting the illegal occupation of their community plaza. Several were detained. October 27th, street vendors at the Yingtian Street night market in Shangqiu, Hainan clashed with city enforcement officers, resulting in multiple injuries. Sheng Shui and Zheng Haochang agree that these protests are symptomatic of deeper structural issues. Zheng Haochang concluded, "The closer a dynasty is to collapse, the more viciously it exploits its people, and the stronger the resistance becomes. The CCP regime is now facing crises on all fronts. With the government running out of money, it will squeeze the public even harder, plunging deeper into the trap of oppression and rebellion." Meanwhile, Chinese authorities moved quickly to censor online reports and videos of the Hainan incident. It was not until the afternoon of November 1st that Cheongjiang County officially acknowledged the events. Adding to the atmosphere of crisis, Beijing lawyers have begun responding to the Hainan case, highlighting the illegality of the land seizure and asserting the villagers' contractual rights. Legal experts argue that the use of force by a state-owned enterprise against citizens not only violates property law, but undermines the very concept of social stability that the CCP claims to uphold. Observers also note that Hainan Rubber's actions reflect a broader trend in which state-backed corporations exploit ambiguous land ownership and weak enforcement mechanisms, knowing that local residents have little recourse. Some villagers believe the company may have colluded with local officials to bypass legal requirements, a claim difficult to verify independently due to strict state controls and censorship. As night fell on October 31st, protesters in Yuantai Fan village continued to gather around the company's office, lighting fires and creating makeshift barricades with chopped tree trunks. Witnesses described the atmosphere as electric, with villagers taking turns to speak into megaphones, recounting personal losses and urging unity. One woman shared, "My family has been growing these trees for 15 years. They were our only source of income. Now everything is gone. What are we supposed to do?" Another villager, a young father, told reporters, "They think we will be afraid because the police are here, but they underestimate us. We know our rights, and we know we have nothing left to lose. We will defend our land." The combination of raw anger, personal stories, and direct confrontation with state-backed forces has made the Hainan protest a striking example of grassroots resistance in contemporary China. Analysts warn that such incidents are likely to proliferate as economic hardship deepens, government debt increases, and the public's tolerance for abuse diminishes. Following the unrest in Hainan, China's internal political landscape reveals equally turbulent developments. The Chinese Communist Party, CCP, announced that in the first 3 quarters of 2025, 90 provincial and ministerial level officials were placed under investigation, surpassing the total number for all of last year. Analysts note that this surge is not driven by moral renewal, but by intensified factional power struggles within a regime that has long been rotted to the core. According to the CCP's Central Commission for Discipline Inspection, CCDI, disciplinary and supervisory agencies nationwide filed 789,000 cases from January to September 2025, including 90 at the provincial ministerial level, 3,704 at the bureau level, 31,000 at the county level, and 106,000 at the township level. Columnist Wang He noted, "Last year already saw a record number of high-ranking officials, especially centrally managed cadres, falling from power. This year's new peak shows that internal political struggles within the CCP have reached an unprecedented intensity." Cakeson reported that 47 of the 90 senior officials were investigated in the 3rd quarter alone, the highest single-quarter figure since the CCP's 20th Party Congress in October 2022. For comparison, only 58 senior officials were investigated in the same period last year, and 73 in all of 2024. Wang He observed, Corruption permeates every level of the CCP bureaucracy. Yet only some officials are targeted, typically those who stand on the wrong side politically. This anti-corruption surge is really part of the fierce power contest ahead of the 21st Party Congress. Meanwhile, a sweeping purge within the military is underway. Multiple sources reported that roughly 40% of serving generals are under investigation by the Military Disciplinary Commission. Incomplete statistics indicate that 34 generals were absent from the fourth plenary session of the National People's Congress, while more than half missed standing committee meetings. Among them, 9 fell from power, 5 were expelled from the party, and 2 lost their delegate status. The purge affected the Central Military Commission, Rocket Force, Armed Police, and Eastern Theater Command. Analysts describe this top-echelon shakeup as a collapse-style earthquake, unprecedented in modern Chinese history. Political analyst Kai Shenkun commented, "The military purge began after the All-Army Political Work Conference in Hainan last year and will continue until June next year, a full 2-year campaign. Its main goal is to completely reshuffle the military's leadership in preparation for the 21st Party Congress." Wang He added, "These purges make the regime look tough externally, but internally it is hollow, strong in appearance, weak in substance. Anti-corruption is merely an excuse to remove politically unreliable figures. In the CCP system, loyalty, not integrity, is the ultimate criterion for survival." As the political elite turn on each other, the economic front is also showing alarming signs of collapse. China's seafood market, a long-standing pillar of domestic consumption, is experiencing a serious crisis. In recent months, multiple reports have emerged of chemically soaked shellfish and shrimp being sold across markets, containing dangerous additives, most notably malachite green, a carcinogenic chemical banned in food products. Consumers and local vendors alike expressed shock and fear. One seafood market worker in Guangzhou told reporters, "No one dares to eat shrimp anymore. People check every vendor, but they don't trust anything. Sales are down by more than 70% in some areas." Market sentiment is overwhelmingly negative, as media reports document panic among traders and families. Social media discussions highlight a rising distrust in food safety, with users remarking, "Even when prices drop, people won't buy shrimp or shellfish. Who knows what chemicals are inside?" The collapse of confidence in seafood mirrors broader anxieties in the agricultural and food industries. The scandal comes after long-standing allegations of chemical contamination and lax inspections, further eroding public trust in both state oversight and private sector compliance. Observers warn that continued contamination scandals could have ripple effects on exports, domestic consumption, and the livelihoods of millions in the fishing and aquaculture sectors. These economic crises intersect with the ongoing unrest in Hainan. Villagers and farmers see a pattern of exploitation across industries. Just as the CCP-backed rubber company seized their land and destroyed mature areca plantations, chemical mismanagement in seafood markets demonstrates a disregard for public health. Beijing lawyers have begun to respond, not only to the Hainan land dispute, but also to cases of consumer harm related to contaminated seafood, framing these as legal violations that threaten social stability. The Haijiao Company land grab dispute in Hainan has added another layer of public outrage. Residents allege that state-backed enterprises collude with local officials to appropriate land illegally, undermining the already fragile confidence of rural communities. Legal representatives in Beijing argue that these actions constitute clear violations of contractual rights and property law. Yet the combination of state power and local complicity leaves affected villagers with little recourse. Observers note that the same systemic failures allow both corporate exploitation and widespread food contamination to persist under the radar, reinforcing public sentiment that the government prioritizes profit and control over citizen welfare. As anger simmers, ordinary citizens share stories of personal loss and humiliation. One Hainan farmer recounted, "My areca trees were my family's life. Overnight, they were gone. Now the company claims the land, and the local police defend them. We feel powerless, but we cannot stay silent. Across the country, similar stories echo in markets and villages, whether it's families avoiding shrimp and shellfish due to chemical contamination, or villagers protesting illegal land seizures. The CCP's mounting internal crises, from corruption to military purges, coincide with declining public trust in governance, creating a volatile environment where economic instability and political repression feed off each other.